Hello, hello, is it me you're looking for? Welcome. This is G. You are watching Allastrology. What is going on, Virgos? You folks have made me one busy individual. Thank you. Thank you. I'm flattered by all the Virgo love I've received. Seriously. And I'm honored. Flattered and honored all at the same time. And yeah, there's a kitty cat sitting right next to me. We got Taffy. You probably can't see her, but she'll probably get up in a minute and show us her whiskers so that I can rub her cheeks together. And yeah, but the sun's coming out now, so she's staring out the window, which is good too. We got to talk about April. There's a lot going on in April. I know, like, it's every month. It's like, okay, there's a lot going on. Yeah, there is. April, there's 3 events I'm going to talk about. 3 main events. All right. The first thing we're going to start with is Mars. Mars is a big deal because Mars makes a move. And that move that Mars makes actually happens at the end of March. Like the last 3 days of March, Mars leaves Gemini energy and goes into Cancer energy. Now, this is huge because this whole time for the last 6 months, Mars has been squaring you. Mars has been angling Virgo energy 90 degrees, difficult, challenging, square energy, uncomfortable, super challenging, right? Because you may have things in your chart that create a T-square so that you've got something, like that, which is holy crap, it's not fun. And then many of us have multiple T-squares on top of T-squares on top of T-squares with that crap, right? And so it's hard. And Virgo energy is my stomach, it's my digestion, it's my gut. And I can tell you that for myself, holy crap, Mars sitting there in Gemini being not only out of bounds, which means it's more intense and more erratic and more extreme than usual, but it's also did a freaking retrograde, which makes it more intense, more extreme, more erratic than usual. So it's been throwing extreme, erratic, just uncomfortable energy to Virgo, squaring it up and challenging it for 6 months. So it's been a trying time, been a very trying time. And I know, like I said, for myself, it's really been, man, it's just been just the weirdest thing and weirdest experiences, like foods I normally eat, which are, relatively very healthy foods. Actually, people look at me like I'm crazy, right? Because I've just always had different sensitivities to food. And so my old standbys, things that worked good for me, was like I had to completely switch things up. Couldn't eat any raw vegetables. Like things were just really, oh, you getting comfortable now, huh? She's starting to lay back and everything. It's getting really warm in here too. The sun's starting to come in this window. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get into the excitement of Mars. So you know who Mars is. Mars is a warrior. Mars was born for war. Mars likes to be first, so it moves really fast, or thinks it thinks it's going really fast. It thinks it can always be first, right? And I say thinks, which is bizarre because Mars doesn't think at all. So let's just back up right there. Mars doesn't think. It moves before thinking. It acts before thinking. It will run. It will leap. It will just take off without planning, without talking, without thinking it through. That is Mars. And it's sporadic bursts of energy. So it's all gung ho and it's ready to get going and it gets going and it gets out of the gate first, but it lacks the lasting power. It can't finish normally because that's Mars. It's really good out of the gate, right? And it's energetic burners, it's boosts. If you think of you're in a car and you hit or a rocket ship, whatever, and you need those boosters to get off the planet, right? That's Mars. The boosters that get it off the planet. And what do they do with those? They drop them off, right? They let go of them. They release them because they're only good for a short amount of time. They're called boosters. And that is freaking Mars. Mars is a booster, right? But the thing is, when it's doing the boosting, it's super extreme. It's super extreme. So now that we have a little bit of an idea about Mars and how impatient it can be, if I didn't say that, and the fact that Mars represents inflammation, and for some people it can represent needing a surgery, right? Because Mars carries a weapon. typically a knife that it's born with, but it can, guns is a thing with Mars. And it being in Gemini energy for the last 6 months, we saw a trillion examples, unfortunately, too many examples of what Mars and Gemini was in the US, especially. I'm sure all over the world, but for the amount of guns that we have in the US, we saw a really good example of Mars and Gemini. A sad, sad example because of our schools and school children and teachers and just, Mars and Gemini, not a good combination, especially if it's out of bounds, especially when it's retrograding. So all that's over. Now Mars is going into the sign of Cancer, and it did it the last 3 days. All right, so now you have a good understanding of what Mars means. Cancer energy is family, feelings, emotions, mom, nurturing, my emotional needs. What do I need to feel emotionally secure? It's home, it's family, it is the sticks and the bricks, but it can also be the internal home, my feelings, the foundations of childhood, that bond you had with mom or that you didn't, the mother wound. This is the sign of Cancer. It's also tribal energy because it's the public. It's people in general, like the public, the masses. But it's also meeting people for the first time and that instant, holy shit, I feel like I've known you my whole life. For some people, especially if it's, if there's a romantic thing in there, which some people take it there when they feel that sense of depth with somebody where our souls resonate. Sometimes they take it to that level, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, but we sometimes confuse that and we think that's what it is. And it can simply just be, we got history. Our souls resonate because they have history. They have memory together. The souls have a memory together, right? They have soul stories that they share. I don't know if you can see her. She got up. So Mars being there, Mars is a watery energy. It's feelings, it's empathy, it's empathic. Okay. So it can be very sensitive. It wants to be carry the home on its back. The reason it wants that home on its back, the crab, it needs that protective shell because it's super sensitive. That shell literally gives it the protection that it needs. Okay. So this is all really, it makes sense. It's good to know this about yourself. Now, where is this in your life? This is going to be taking place for you, Virgo. This is your friends. This is your group energy. Okay. This is your social circles, group energy. This can also be online. This is your 11th house. This is also astrology. Okay. So for you Virgos out there who don't have a chart and you're hearing me talk and you're like, but I'm watching this for my birthday. You can watch this for your birthday. That's all good. That's fine. Ask your questions. I'll help you in any way I can. If you get your chart, you can see what your ascendant, what your rising and ascendant are the same thing. You can see what your rising sign is. All right. So for those of you who know that you're a Virgo rising, I'm telling you what house number this is. And that's why I share that. All right. And Mars will be here for all of April. All of April, Mars is not a fast mover. All right. The digits and the degrees and the dates will be below, where you can see what degrees Mars operates at for the entire month of April. If you don't have anything at those degrees, don't be too alarmed, but you want to see if you have anything squaring them. So that would be the cardinal signs. That would be Libra, and that would be, opposing would be Capricorn, and then Aries. Right. So let's get on with it, right? We get to April, the beginning of April, full moon energy, April 7th, and we have a full moon, and it's in the sign of Libra. Right. Mars rules this month. I'm just going to say that right off the top. Mars rules this month. Okay. And I'll tell you in a minute, why does Mars rule this month? I mean, you already know one of the reasons, because Mars is in the sign of Cancer. And I'm talking about the sign of Libra and having a full moon there. Right. And so Cancer energy and Libra energy, they square each other. It creates a square. Okay. It's 90-degree angle. It's a square. So that's stress and tension. Okay. So this is a release and it's a let go. It's insignificant one-on-one relationships because it's Libran energy. So Libra is typically feminine energy because it's Venus that rules Libra. And Mars is masculine energy. So it's masculine and feminine. So it's almost like, is there a breakup? And if there's not a breakup, is there something that happens that could possibly create stress and tension? And so sometimes those events bring people closer, but if it doesn't bring them closer, it can break them up. But normally when you have Venus and Mars with stress and tension, it doesn't have to signify a breakup. But I will be honest, because it's a release, because that's what a full moon is, there's some sort of a release with a relationship here, some sort of a release. Okay. So maybe there's another person in somebody's life that has to be gone in order for the relationship to make it. Maybe it's that kind of a release. It could be. It's when I look at your Libran energy for Virgo energy. Yeah. This is your second house of values. It's your second house of what I desire. And this can definitely be your second house of how I receive. So it can be income, it can be money, it can be who you love, it can be who you marry, who you want to marry, who you're married to. So you see what I'm saying? How there might be something there. Okay. It's the degrees that matter. The degrees of the full moon is 1607. So if you have something at 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 degrees, those are your degrees to look for where you could say, gee, I've got something. What is it going to mean? And if you don't even know any of that, you can still ask me for help. All right. Now let's move on because that's the 7th, the beginning of the month. As we get further into the month, remembering that Mars is still in the sign of Cancer. Come on. Are you turning? Oh, her sister's outside the door. She's going to go do the door thing that cats do. So we know that Mars being in your 11th house is friendships, right? So there could be some stress and tension coming from friends also at the same time because it's the sign of Cancer. And so the 4 cardinal signs, just keep this in your brain. You've got Libra energy here. You've got Aries energy over here. Then we've got another cross, the cardinal great cross, which would be Cancer energy and Capricorn energy going the other way. So it makes a cross, you see? Or we would call that like a great square, right? Because if you connect the 4 corners, yep, let me see if I can do this. If you were to connect these 4 corners, right, you've got a square. So it's a time where Mars is affecting a lot of things. Okay. So remember, we are just remembering that Mars can be very impatient and it can also act without thinking, which means it could make a mistake in its actions because it's, what's the word I'm looking for? You're impatient, but you want to go ahead and act. So it's haste. It acts out of, I just have to do something. I can't sit on this. I feel like I'm going to burst if I don't do something. That's Mars, right? So just keep that in mind. Everybody's patience and everybody's level of irritation will be higher. It's easier to be irritated through the month of April. Okay. Now, we move on and it's the 19th. Let me double check. I'm sorry, the 19th. Yeah, I said it. The 19th of April. There is a new moon, but this is a very big new moon. This is a new moon in the sign of Aries energy. New moon in the sign of Aries. What planet rules Aries? Yep. If you're saying Mars, you're absolutely 100% correct. Mars rules the sign of Aries. So you see where Mars, I'm saying, is like Mars kind of rules this month. Mars is a big factor in a lot of different ways. It's angling Aries and Libra energy in a difficult way. It's sending stress and tension to both sides. So when you have an Aries new moon, and then when you have an Aries new moon near a node, the north node, right, this is a solar eclipse we're having because the sun and the moon are together. Okay, that's what makes a new moon. What makes it an eclipse is the fact that it's near one of the nodes, and it's the north node that it's near. Okay, the north node is about your future. So what this tells me is that for all of us, really, we're going to be taking some sort of an action, and it's based on our future. It's a new beginning. It's a north node eclipse, solar eclipse. So it's material, it's tangible. Solar is external. It's our physical world around us. We can see it. A south node eclipse would be the opposite. It's like the moon, it's the emotions, it's internal, it's feelings, and it's more, these are about the nodes, the moon's nodes, right? The moon's nodes. So the north node is about your future, where you're headed. So if you've got Mars and a new beginning angling and squaring relationships, there can be some stress and tension, like this either is my partner going forward or they're not. Somebody's either looking for that level of commitment and maybe thinking, well, I'm not going to get this level of commitment. So they're moving on. They're like, this is what I'm ready for, and this person's not willing to do it, I've got to, seek out some other options, or I got to make a different plan. I got to go to plan B, right? So that is the beginning. And so for Virgos, this is in your 8th house. This is deep. This is powerful. This is a new moon, an eclipse, solar eclipse in your 8th house. Your 8th house is your deep, intense, buried emotions. And these were things from the past. These were these big hurts that you buried so deep you may not be aware of them. It's Aries energy. Yeah. So it could have been something possibly from another lifetime, because this is really old energy here. Okay. So when I think about this and I think about the possibility for a new beginning, it brings a healing, because that's what the 8th house does. It takes those old emotions and we learn. We do things, we make a choice, and then we learn and we heal and we move on. Okay. So Aries is going to begin something for sure. Absolutely. Because it's Aries, it's Mars. It loves to start things. It's passionate about starting stuff. This new moon is about your future. Your 8th house is also deeply bonded energy, those that you are emotionally bonded with. This can be physical bonds, usually very intimately physically bonded energy. It doesn't always have to be physically bonded, just so that we know it doesn't always have to be that. Emotional bonds are just as powerful. Okay. So people where their souls resonate on a super deep way. Okay. It can be that energy. And this is a new beginning. So if you're releasing and ending and closing something off, there's a huge new beginning here. If you have something at these degrees, and the degrees are, this eclipse is at 2950, something like that, 2950. So it's like a 30-degree eclipse in the sign of Aries. So if you in your chart at home have something at 28, 29 of Aries, and if you have something at 0 and 1 and maybe even 2 degrees of Pisces, this eclipse will affect you. Matter of fact, me talking about it, you could put in the comments and tell me what's happened in your life, because it would have, you're already feeling it, you're already seeing it, you're already experiencing it, right? Because when an eclipse occurs, we can feel it depending upon our own degrees, like how close they are, and if we have any other planets there, easily 6 months in advance. I've had people where they feel stuff that soon in advance. I know that's happened for me, for sure. Others have mentioned a few months in advance. The difference is how many other things are there, because the more planets or house cusp lines that are there, the bigger band, the bigger radiation the energy is, and the earlier it's felt. Make sense? So those were the 3 things. Mars in the sign of Cancer, the full moon at the beginning of the month in Libra, the release and the let go. This is friend energy. And then the new moon at the end of the month, the total solar eclipse, new moon in Aries, the North Node eclipse in Aries, this new beginning with your wounds, with your deeply bonded energy. These are people that you could also, I didn't mention this, people where you inherit things. So it's blood bonds as well. Okay. This can be taxes and releasing and having to pay the man for the taxes. Like, it's that energy too, but it's a new beginning. And new beginnings usually bring hope, because we are come to the point where we understand who is no longer part of our future, who's not going where we're going. And then we make choices, and then we start off on that fresh road. So I hope, Virgo, that this has helped. I hope I delivered it in a nice, clear, concise way. And if you got any questions, if you need a chart, if you don't know and you want to know, comment below. Happy April 2023. Bye-bye. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.